Clinton Yates, Harry Lyles Jr., Kevin Blackistone, Pablo Torre. The news of the day, and it's as feared. Complete tear of the Achilles tendon. Aaron Rodgers out for the season, so this Jets team now ready to win right now. Do they make a bold move? And for Buffalo, do the Bills have a Josh Allen problem? Let's go around the horn. Ugh.
What's going on?
That the Jets were able to win and how they won. The defense eating Josh Allen, Garrett Wilson's great touchdown catch, Xavier Gibson's walk-off punt return. It was victory from the jaws of just end the season. Thrilling, but you know the U-turn here is immense because it became official this morning. Aaron Rodgers out for the season. The Achilles, in fact, torn completely. Zach Wilson, for the time being, QB1. One detail I saw today from Diana Rossini's reporting for The Athletic, that Rodgers had told the team he didn't like play calls that required cup blocks from his linemen. On the play in question, it was a cup block for Dwayne Brown that Leonard Floyd worked through and where he sustained the injury. Around the horn for the reaction to the news of the day. Complete tear, season over for Aaron Rodgers. Clinton Yates, first to you.
My first thought was, man, this is awkward for a couple different reasons. Not just because of the height of the expectations after all of Hard Knocks and the whole offseason and everything, but inside the very building of the Jets. Let's not forget that Zach Wilson was picked very high by this team. He was somebody they thought was going to be able to achieve. And when you brought in Aaron Rodgers because the players on his team said that they wanted an improvement at the position, you hoped you had something. Now you don't, and now you're openly speculating about another quarterback you're going to bring in over the guy that you had to begin with. This just seems like a lot for Saleh to be dealing with, never mind what the expectations are on the specific field. I cannot imagine what it's like in the Jets front office right now, just trying to work through everything, and Aaron Rodgers is out here second-guessing his own coaches, even when he's not playing. Not a good scenario at all.
Harry Lyles Jr.
To me, this just feels like devastating, both from timing and from what it means for the New York Jets. We're talking about a franchise that has been trying to get back to some sort of prominence basically for 60 years, right? It's never been quite consistent with them, and we're talking about a team where all the players on the roster have been vouching for that guy. They wanted this guy to be in this place. They got him. He's one of the best quarterbacks that we've ever seen play. And for me, my mind didn't necessarily even go to, oh my gosh, we're not going to see him for the rest of the season. He's 40 years old. We're talking about an Achilles tear. This is not an ACL. This is not a sprained ankle. That is something that is difficult for anybody of any age to come back from. And the expectation that Aaron Rodgers at this point in his life and in his career could just come back from something like that, I think is a very bold assumption.
Kevin Blackistone.
Well, it's as if the Jets didn't have bad luck. They wouldn't have any luck at all, right? I mean, they've had these sorts of injuries before with quarterbacks that they were very hopeful with in a playoff run. Chad Pennington, Vinny Testaverde both got hurt when these teams were pretty good. So it's just you just feel bad for the franchise and feel bad for the fans. But I will say this. It's not necessarily closed the door on Aaron Rodgers because of this injury. While it is devastating, I can remember in the early 1970s, Sonny Jurgensen, who at that time was the best quarterback in the NFL, in New York in Yankee Stadium, blew out his Achilles. He came back at 39-40, 6-2 record when the stubborn coach of the team, George Allen, would let him play, completed over 60% of his passes. So you can come back from these injuries. Wow. It's not over. If Aaron Rodgers was there just for this year to win a Super Bowl, then yeah, it's over. But I would think that they were looking at least a 2-year window this year, maybe next year to get it.
I love the history lesson there from Professor Blackistone going back to the 1970s. Pablo Torre on what transpired.
I don't know if Kevin Blackistone is the shaman that is the answer to the Jets' whole ceremony of misery right now, Tony. Sonny Jurgensen does not alleviate the fact that the Jets are absolutely playing for this year in specific. I get that this is a 2-year deal, but let's talk about this year. This is a team with a top 5 defense. This is a team that was more obviously a quarterback away than anybody else in the entire sport. And when you have the guy who had the docuseries Hard Knocks, who was running onto the field with the American flag, this is just flatly, this is the Jetsiest thing that has ever happened, which says quite a bit. You had all of the buildup, and now you have this void. A void of not just quarterbacking on the field, but a void psychologically. If I watched Hard Knocks, my takeaway, and I did, my takeaway would be they count on Aaron Rodgers more than any team counts on a single player when it comes to leadership, decision-making, and now that's all different in 4 plays. Nothing else has happened like this.
Talk me through this, though. You saw the team that was on the field, non-Aaron Rodgers yesterday, and they're built to win right now. That defense, we're going to talk about Josh Allen in a little bit. That defense wrecked Josh Allen in this game. So my question is, you got Zach Wilson, and then there are other names. Who's going to throw some other names out here? Let's hear it. I know somebody wants to say Tom Brady. Go ahead. Just say Tom Brady right now. And then Matt Ryan is also on a list of quarterbacks who are unrostered right now who might be available. Carson Wentz. Joe Flacco could be backo. Maybe trade for Jameis Winston or Sir Matthew Stafford. That's the options. Harry, where should the Jets turn?
I think they're got to stick with Zach Wilson. None of those options sound great to me, and they would still have to come in and learn this offense. But this, again, is why I said in August during the Pro Football Hall of Fame game that you need to see what Zach Wilson is going to evolve if Aaron Rodgers is helping him in case he gets hurt. And now we're here. The positive, I think, though, is that this team is built to win with a lesser quarterback. And I think the way that they won that game last night is how it's going to have to look for most of the season. You have one of the best defenses that anybody in the NFL is going to see. Garrett Wilson is one of the best receivers that you are going to see. And Breece Hall, if Breece Hall looks like that for the majority of the season, not only is he going to help your offense and alleviate some of that quarterback play, but he's also going to shorten football games. And if Zach Wilson is going to be your quarterback, it's going to have to be that.
Zach Wilson, QB1 for the Jets from Harry Lyles. Pablo Torre, where are you?
Tony, we're talking about this season. I'm considering trading a first-round pick. Maybe a first-round pick. Yes, a first-round pick for Kyler Murray. Go get somebody that is a risk on some real level. He has health concerns himself.
He can't play for the first month of the season. Yeah.
But high upside, Tony. Like, it's either that or you realize that it's Andrew Luck's birthday today. And you're wondering, can I send him, like, I don't know, a book that he enjoys in whatever forest he's in to convince him? Barring that, I'm probably rolling the dice with Kyler Murray if I can.
Kevin Blackistone?
You know, Kyler Murray's not a bad idea for a first-round draft pick. But here's the thing. Think about where you're at, and I go back to what Clinton just mentioned. It's kind of like the psyche of this team. This is a player in Zach Wilson who just miraculously didn't screw up a win for you against the Buffalo Bills. So do you try to build up his confidence by not immediately bringing in somebody to take his job, or do you really start this search? Kyler Murray would be different. And the other thing you got to think about is Aaron Rodgers. He's got a 2-year deal. He is going to come back. What is he going to think about the fact that you would go out and get somebody to take his spot? So I think it's a really delicate
Well, the
place.
financials of his deal are also very fascinating as well. So, I mean, the amount of money involved. Clinton Yates.
Right.
I wanted a name here for quarterback for the Jets. It's week 2 of the season, and they only have one right now on their depth chart. It's Zach Wilson.
Yeah, there's an awkward element of, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? And Wilson is the guy who made sure that everybody got through it. And as a result, because of what I just mentioned in that building, I'm bringing Flacco back. He's been on that team. He knows the coaches. Zach himself knows him. Bringing in somebody like Kyler, to me, is way too much of a direct competition because, again, they picked Wilson high in the draft because they believed him in at one point. There's no reason not to go back to that and say, hey, we'll give it a rip. We'll bring in a veteran. You pick up Flacco. He still plays number one Wilson, that is. Flacco is the backup, and you hope that he can become something later on down the line because he did it last night.
Here's the thing about Zach Wilson, though, that I'm wary of, beyond the fact that the entire team has very publicly given up on him previously. It's the idea that they tried a version of this before. They tried a version with, like, okay, here's a top 5 defense, and here's a guy who looks like Zach Wilson and plays like him. How does this go? They had a soft schedule to end. They made a run towards a playoff berth. I can't expect that the health of the defense, which was stellar last season, is going to be the same this season, even after you get over the Rodgers thing.
Maybe.
But he's also got a running game to work with this year with Breece Hall and with Dalvin Cook. Not only that, he's got the emergence of Garrett Wilson as a great receiver. This is different. I mean, quarterbacks used to mature in this league. They didn't just come in right off the bat and star. So maybe you give a maturation period of who knows how many weeks or how many games.
You're still going to need somebody. And their schedule through the first month of this season, do they have time to wait for Kyler Murray? They don't, no. Pablo, potentially, with the way it looks here. All right, nobody wants to throw out Matt Ryan. We saw him. He said he's not retiring. You saw him calling a game this week. Nobody wants to go to the Tom Brady place, to Phillip Rivers. I heard Andrew Luck. I think that was the joke. All right, Joe Flacco, Carson Wentz
won the game. Reminder.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about the game when we come back. It's going to be about Josh Allen, though. Can you fix a quarterback who's turnover prone? Bye until next.
Aroudn the Horn, brought to you by Chase. Coming to you from the Seaport District.
Up accuracy. Can you teach up not making turnovers? Can you reverse a quarterback who's turnover prone, Pablo Torre?
Not when you're trying to win the game like he does. He has every physical skill, and he tries to play like he's about to use all of them at once. And that has been a solution for nobody so far.
Kevin Blackistone.
You know, if we question whether or not Dak Prescott was a problem for the Cowboys to be able to advance, and that he hasn't led the league since 2018 in turnovers, then absolutely Josh Allen is a problem. But it's not just the turnovers, it's also the decision-making and protecting his body. There was a point last night, I think it was at the close of the first half, where it was 3rd and 13 or something like that, and he scrambled out of the pocket, and rather than just go down because he had no chance of making a first down, he decided to collide into about 3 defenders. Just unnecessary. So you've got to be able to coach safety to himself, safety to the team, and improve his accuracy by just being smarter. Can't throw 3 picks like that and expect to win.
Harry Lyles Jr.
Tony, I think Josh Allen is one of the most frustrating players to watch just because when he plays within himself, the only other player I think that is more exciting to watch is probably Patrick Mahomes, but he plays the game like he's playing himself on Madden. He throws any pass he wants to, he takes any hit that's in front of him, and it's just not good for business. So yes, I do think that they have a problem with him. If he plays within himself, it is a complete game changer for this team. In fact, we know it is because we've seen them not be able to run the football for the last 2 years because it hasn't mattered because he's either going to make the pass or get the first down himself on the ground.
Let's stretch the analogy out a little bit further. Can the Bills hit a reset button with Josh Allen and have him be less turnover prone, I guess is the question, Harry?
I think that they can. Whatever Brian Daboll was doing in order to get him to play within himself, they need to find that again because they haven't had it since he left.
Clinton Yates.
Yeah, and I think the start of that was him, channeling Taylor Swift and saying, it's me, hi, I'm the problem. And if he's willing to admit that, then I believe that he's willing to try to improve as well. 2 of those picks were effectively punts, long throws that they got down inside of the 5-4. And if you're going to tell me that the top side of what he has is that good, it's not a problem for me. It's just something that you've kind of got to sort out, and that's what football is. He's good for 40-odd touchdowns a year. I know there's a lot of picks and a lot of turnovers, but if he's that good, he's worth it, especially if you think you got to just...
The 4th turnover was the fumble at the line, which creeped up again because it happened last year in another incomprehensible loss they had against Minnesota, if you remember that game. Okay, so Buffalo drops the first game of the season, but looking at the rest of the conference, we know Kansas City took an L, and there were some surprising outcomes. Getting back to where they need to be, Clinton Yates, in addition to Allen, what needs to change? Because the whole team lost this game to a Zach Wilson-led Jets team by the end of
I'm not going crazy about this. Again, they lost this game in overtime on a punt return. This was an unusual situation in many different ways last night. I don't think the Bills are in panic mode remotely. I do think that what Harry's saying is correct. Make better decisions, you will get better.
Harry Lyles Jr.
I mean, I think it's got to be a problem. And to KB's point, the only reason we haven't talked about it sooner is because they've won 10, 13, 11, and 13 games the last 4 seasons. If they hadn't done that, we would have been talking about this much sooner.
Right. So to get back to that, Kevin Blackistone?
Well, the Jets scored 13 points off of Josh Allen turnovers. That was the difference last night.
Pablo Torre.
Yeah, I would say hire Brian Daboll back.
But that's not happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Buy or sell 2. An NBA story. Can the NBA really implement these rules to fine and punish teams when they sit stars? It's currently a proposal. Team fines could start at $100,000, could go up to $1 million if a franchise sits more than one All-Star for a game, or sit an All-Star in back-to-back games, or for national TV games. Kevin, buy or sell the NBA able to implement this and get around their load management problem?
Hold up. You're telling me that the NBA is going to mandate how much a player must play or how little a player cannot play without consulting the CBA, without consulting the Players Association, without C.J. McCollum at the table? I don't see how that's happening. That's a collective bargaining situation, if anything is. I mean, that absolutely impacts labor. I understand that the league has a problem, and with load management, and stars need to play, especially when they're on the road, but that is not the way to go about it without the union at the table.
Harry Lyles Jr.
Yeah, it feels like they can't really get away with this, again, without the union in play. I understand that you need your star players, not just in the arena on any night, but especially for primetime games. But this doesn't seem the way to go about it, especially when the reason that this is happening is for player health. So either fix the schedule or go hit the table and talk about this with the players and find a solution. This isn't it.
This has such boomer, I had to go uphill both ways to school energy as a punishment kind of thing, and it sounds ridiculous. Harry touched on it. The way to change this is obvious. Less games on the schedule. I know nobody wants to talk about that because of the way that the money comes in, but if you're really talking about health, that's what's actually going to change what's available to guys in terms of their ability to play games.
Pablo Torre.
But let's be very clear about why the NBA is trying to do this, and it is desperate for all the reasons you guys said. The real solution is lower the number of games. They're not going to do that because of money. So what they're trying to beg. I mean, they're saying, please don't embarrass us. We just gave the San Antonio Spurs, Tony, a record number of national TV games because Victor Wembanyama is the newest best thing. And what happens if that guy is getting load managed in his rookie season? That's what they're worried about, and I get why they're worried. It's entertainment, it's a TV product. The problem is when teams see an edge because they're playing for the championship and not for this regular season game, which matters less, you're going to have cutthroat teams being cutthroat about entertainment, meaning they don't value it as much as Adam Silver does. And that is the tension you can't resolve with a rule like this, begging, please don't make me look bad.
You reminded me of something when you were talking about the national TV games for San Antonio. The national TV games for the Jets this year, and the number of times Zach Wilson could be, maybe it'll be Matthew Stafford by the end of it. Who knows? It is going to be on national TV. It's 5 games. Harry Lyles Jr., Pablo Torre. Showdown next. They lost week 1 with Adam. They'll have him in week 2. Chris Jones and Kansas City agreeing to terms, ending the holdout. They agreed for the same salary per game, minus the week he just missed, so he's even making less than he made last year. But then there's more bonuses for play if he reaches certain levels. Harry, was this a holdout that worked for team and player, or didn't work for team and player?
I think 60-40 in favor of Chris Jones. You got to tell the team, hey, look, you really did need me. He's going to be able to make up the money, not just his fines, but the money he actually wanted. They're incentivized, and if you're the Chiefs, you get to make them earn it.
Torre?
Yeah, it just feels, though, like it was avoidable. Like, I get why Chris Jones... Look, anybody missing a week of football in which your team lost and you look better as a result of it, great move. But it felt unnecessary in the end if the finances were going to come out to this. Didn't feel like you won super big.
Yeah. And now they're 0-1. Split the point, move on. LeBron firing up a bat signal for Team USA at the Olympics. This is the redeem team. After the flame out at the World Cup, Bron, Curry, Durant for Paris, Pablo. Will that show the world?
At a certain point, you can only redeem things so many times. You need another verb here besides redeem. I would say that it is like calling up your big brother and being like, okay, can we please get the adults back because we're now just officially embarrassed.
Harry Lyles?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, this is the fine, we'll do it team. Like, can we skip this step, right? Where we have to lose it before we go and then be like, all right, no, we'll go win it. Like, if we could just avoid that, I think we'll be all happier with the result.
Harry Lyles Jr., that's 30 seconds of FaceTime.
Fine.
So Xavier Gibson, the player that had the punt return for a touchdown last night on Monday Night Football, was undrafted out of Stephen F. Austin. You've probably only heard of them if you watch the NCAA tournament, but he is a player that was one of the last to make the Jets roster on Hard Knocks. You saw Robert Saleh tell him about the news. He said, "You're going to do great things for us." You saw those on Monday night. He said the thing that he really liked about Xavier Gibson was his approach and his mindset. I think that is something that he talked about, maximizing his abilities. You saw that last night. So, hey, if you're watching this and you're going through something that's tough or you really just want to better yourself, I think that's a perfect example of how to try to make it work.
And maximize those blocks you get where there's a leg up on the competition, right?
You might need a little help.
Real quick, Professor Blackistone, Professor of Journalism. Tip the hat to Patrick Mahomes. The comma. Hate that comma, man.